Night should have been peaceful on the planet Rathos. It should have been dark, calm, and filled with the soft glow of the twin moons. But tonight the sky was not dark. It was burning red. The dying star above Rathos shook violently, sending a blinding wave of light across the entire planet. In seconds, it turned night into a horrible, bright morning one that felt like the end of everything. The air trembled, buildings cracked, and a deep roar echoed through every valley. People ran through the streets with their children, stumbling over broken ground. Smoke rose from collapsed towers. The alarms in the capital screamed nonstop, echoing across the city like a warning from the gods. Everyone knew the truth now, a truth they had feared for years. Their world was dying, and someone wanted to make sure it stayed dead above the clouds. Dark shapes entered orbit enemy warships, cold and silent like shadows of death. They belonged to the Varn Empire, a merciless force that had hunted the Rathos, people for generations. Now they were here to finish the job. Inside the main launch hangar, workers shouted over the noise as they pushed the last remaining refugee ships onto the runway. Mothers held crying children. Soldiers carried injured civilians. Old people stared at the sky, whispering goodbye to a home they knew they would never see again. In the command ship, Siren 9, Commander Lara stared at the main viewport. She watched her planet tremble as the dying star's shockwave hit the atmosphere. The clouds shook, and lightning cracked across the burning sky. Behind her, the control room was chaos officers shouting status reports. Screens flashing red warnings. Doors shaking from distant explosions. "Commander!" an officer yelled. The Voran ships have entered low orbit. They are charging weapons. Larry closed her eyes for 1 second. Not to rest. Not to think. But to remember her home, its forests, its rivers, its quiet nights. She knew she would never see them again. "Begin the evacuation," she said. Her voice was steady, even though her heart wasn't. "Launch all refugee ships, now." The hangar opened, and the first wave of ships shot into the sky, engines glowing blue. The refugees inside held onto each other, whispering prayers. But halfway through the climb, the first enemy beam struck. A bright white line cut through a ship on the right side of the formation. The ship broke apart instantly, its pieces burning in the sky like falling stars. "No," a technician whispered. "They are firing on civilians." "Of course they are," Larry said quietly. "The Voran do not leave survivors." The second wave launched. Then the third. The Siren 9 lifted off last, carrying Lara herself along with the final group of refugees. The moment they entered space, everything became worse. Voran fighters swarmed them. The refugee ships jerked and twisted as beams shot past them. Every second, another alarm rang. Every minute, another ship vanished from the radar. Shields failing. Left wing damaged. "We can't outrun them." Lorelei watched her doomed fleet scatter like frightened birds. Her people were tired, hungry, weak. They had no weapons strong enough to fight this enemy. No allies left to call, but she still tried. She pressed a button on her console and recorded a message with a shaking voice. "To any species, please help us. We seek only shelter. Our home is gone." A voice echoed inside the ship. Everyone looked up. Some cried silently. Others stared at her with empty eyes. The message was sent into the void of space. Seconds passed. Then minutes. Then long, painful hours. No answer came. Larry kept the message running on repeat. She watched the screen with dry, burning eyes. Every moment, more refugee ships disappeared. The Varn were still behind them, not rushing, simply hunting. Days passed. Still no reply. The Siren 9 drifted through dead space, running low on fuel and oxygen. Many on board had stopped hoping. Some prepared themselves for a quiet death. Then, a small flicker appeared on Leroy's screen. A signal. Weak. Almost nothing. But it was there. Everyone leaned in. Static filled the speakers for a moment. Then a calm voice said, "This is Earth. We hear you. Come." The entire command room froze. No one spoke. No one breathed. Earth? A young race. A species with little known history. A small planet with no great fleets, no great empire, no great power. Some called them naive. Others called them harmless. Most did not think about them at all, and yet they had answered. "Commander," an officer whispered, "it could be a trap." "It could," she said softly. "But it is the only voice that has spoken to us." The Varn were still coming. They were getting closer every hour. Laurie rose to her feet. She looked at her tired crew, her last surviving people. "We set course for Earth," she said. "It is our last hope." The ship turned slowly, engines glowing weak blue. The other refugees followed. Together, what remained of Rathos began the longest journey of their lives. Behind them, the enemy followed like wolves chasing dying prey. Ahead of them was a small blue planet. That might save them, or destroy them. No one knew, and that mystery became the start of their story. The journey to Earth was long, silent, and filled with fear. Commander Leroy sat in the captain's chair, watching the stars move past the windows of the Siren 9. Behind them, the last survivors of Rathos slept in narrow bunks, holding their children close. Every few hours, an officer would whisper updates. "Fuel is low. Oxygen is dropping. Varn ships still tracking us." But Leroy already knew. She could feel the enemy behind them, like a cold shadow that refused to let go. Yet ahead of them lay something strange. Something they still struggled to believe. Earth answered. The signal had been real. The message had been simple. And the hope it gave them was the only thing keeping the refugees alive. Still, doubts filled Leroy's mind. She had studied Earth years ago. It was a developing world, not a strong one. Not united. Not defended. Humans had small fleets, nothing compared to the Varn armada. Why would such a young species promise shelter to strangers? Why risk angering a powerful enemy? These questions haunted her, but there was no time for answers. Hours later, a soft alarm beeped on the navigation screen. "Commander," said Pilot Naren, "we are approaching the edge of the solar system." Everyone on the bridge leaned forward. They had never seen Earth, never seen its sun, never seen its planets. One by one, distant dots appeared on their screens like tiny pearls floating in darkness. The crew held their breath as the computer displayed the labels. Jupiter, Mars, Earth. Leroy felt something warm rise in her chest. For days, they had run through empty space, hungry and terrified. Now they were entering a system that felt alive. But suddenly, a warning alarm blared. "Commander!" The sensor officer yelled. "Lauren ships entering the system, 8 of them." A cold wave spread through the bridge. "Distance?" Larry asked. "Less than 4 hours behind us." 4 hours. That was nothing. If Earth did not open its skies, if humans hesitated, the Varn would slaughter them all before they ever touched the ground. "Push engines to maximum," Leroy ordered. "But, Commander." "Do it." The ship lurched as the engines roared. The refugee fleet tightened formation, trembling as they accelerated. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Then another. Everyone stared at the clock. Every second was borrowed time. Finally, Earth came into view. A blue sphere. White clouds swirling gently above oceans. Land glowing faintly in the sunlight. Several refugees gasped. Some cried. Children pointed at the screen with wide eyes. "It's beautiful," whispered an elderly Rathos woman. Lara felt her heart twist. Their world had once been beautiful too, before the star turned red and the Varn ships arrived. But this planet looked alive, pure, strong. Establish contact, Lara said quietly. The communication officer sent a signal toward Earth. For a moment, there was nothing. No answer, no voice, no welcome. The crew tensed. Larry clenched her hands. Then a voice came through, clear and calm. Rathos fleet, this is Earth Defense. We have you on our screens. You are entering protected space. Continue forward. You are safe. Safe. A word none of them had heard in years, but Larai still didn't trust it completely. Earth Defense, she replied. Our enemies are close behind us. They seek to destroy us. We do not want to bring danger to your world. There was a short pause. Then the human commander answered, We know. And we are ready. Ready? How? With what? Larry opened her mouth to ask, but then she saw it. Dozens of objects rising from the edge of Earth's horizon. At first, she thought they were asteroids, or debris, or drones, but then they formed into perfect military formation. Engines glowing hot blue. Commander, whispered Naren, those are ships. Human ships. More than 10. Then 20. Then 50. A human fleet. A real one. Not small patrol boats. Not outdated vessels. These were warships, new ones, sharp and silver, shaped like weapons of light, and they were not pointing at the refugees. They were pointing past them, toward the darkness behind, toward the Voron. Earth Defense Fleet reporting, came another human voice. We will take position between you and the threat. Continue toward landing coordinates. Larry stood slowly from her chair. Her breath caught in her throat. They are protecting us, she said. A young technician wiped tears from her eyes. They don't even know us. But the surprises weren't over. As the refugee ships moved closer, the Earth Defense Fleet spread out like a shield. More human vessels rose from the planet's stealth fighters, orbital drones, missile carriers. Commander, shouted the sensor officer. Voron ships dropped out of warp. The crew panicked. How close? Larry demanded. Minutes. A deep silence filled the bridge. The Voron were coming. Earth was in danger, and everything was about to fall apart. But then a new human voice filled the speaker, powerful and steady. Rathos fleet, do not fear. No enemy will pass us. You made it home. Home. Another word the refugees had forgotten. Outside the windows, Earth glowed softly in the sunlight. While humanity created a wall of steel and fire to protect strangers they had never met, Lara closed her eyes. For the first time since her planet died, she felt something she thought she would never feel again. Kalan hoped. The skies around Earth glowed with blue engine lights as the human fleet held its position. The refugee ships moved carefully between the giant vessels, like small birds sheltered by powerful wings. Commander Lara stood near the main viewport of the Siren 9, unable to look away. She had seen warships before. She had seen enemy fleets. But she had never seen this, a formation created not to conquer or intimidate, but to protect total strangers. Humans had no reason to help them. No history with them. No treaties. No shared borders. Nothing. And yet, here they were, forming a shield with their own lives. The bridge was silent. Everyone watched Earth grow larger as their ship approached the atmosphere. The blue ocean sparkled under white clouds. Continents stretched like a painted map. It looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Larry wondered if the humans understood the danger coming toward their world. Then a calm voice came from the speakers. Again, Rathos vessel Siren 9, prepare for escorted landing. Follow our lead. Understood, Larai replied. Her voice shook slightly, but she forced herself to stay steady. Her people needed her strength more than ever. 2 human escort ships moved in front of them, Their sleek metallic bodies reflected sunlight as they descended toward Earth. The Siren 9 followed, its engines trembling. Soon, the refugees felt the soft pull of gravity as they entered the atmosphere. Children stared in wonder through the windows. They had never seen a blue sky like this. On Rathos, the sky had been pale green for thousands of years. Some touched the glass as if they could feel the air outside. Below them, they saw an entire coastal area filled with landing docks. Human soldiers and medics waited. A large banner stretched across the landing zone in bright letters, but no one on the Siren 9 could read it. "What does it say?" a child asked. The translator scanned the words and projected the meaning. "You are safe. Welcome to Earth." Tears filled the eyes of several refugees. Even Lara felt her throat tighten. They had run from death for so long. They had forgotten what kindness looked like. The Siren 9 touched down gently. Steam rose around the ship. The engines powered down for the first time in days, maybe weeks, and the silence felt strange. The doors opened. Larai walked out first. Her boots touched the metal of the landing platform, warm from sunlight. The air smelled different here, fresh, salty, alive. Behind her, the Rathos refugees walked cautiously down the ramp, holding on to each other. A line of human soldiers stood ahead of them, armored but relaxed. Their helmets lifted, revealing calm faces. No fear, no anger, only welcome. One human stepped forward. He looked older, with silver hair and soft eyes. His uniform had markings Larai didn't recognize. "Commander Larai of Rathos?" he asked. "Yes," she said, bowing slightly. "And you?" "Admiral Carter," he replied with a nod. "On behalf of Earth, I offer you safety." Larai studied him. He had no weapon raised. His voice wasn't cold or demanding. He had the look of someone who had seen war, but still believed in compassion. "Why?" Larai asked softly. "Why help us?" "You owe us nothing." Carter smiled gently. "Because you asked," he said. Sometimes that is enough. Simple words, but powerful ones. Larry lowered her eyes as emotion washed over her. Behind them, human medics hurried forward. They carried water, food, blankets, things the refugees hadn't seen in weeks. Human engineers helped those who were injured or weak. Children were lifted gently onto medical stretchers. Every action was careful, kind, almost protective. One small Rathos child tugged on Lorai's sleeve. "Commander," he whispered, "are these people good?" Larry looked around at the humans, at their warm gestures, their open hands. "Yes," she said softly. "I believe they are." Just then, a group of scientists approached with tablet devices. They began scanning the refugees, speaking in quiet tones. "We're checking for radiation damage from your star," one scientist explained. "We want to make sure everyone is healthy." The refugees stared at him in shock. "You care about our health?" one woman asked. "Of course," the scientist replied. "You're our guests." Guests. Not burdens. Not prey. Not targets. Guests. Larai had seen many species in the galaxy. Most would have used the refugees for labor, trade, or political advantage. Some might have pushed them away or imprisoned them, but humans welcomed them like neighbors. As more refugee ships landed around them, Lorraine noticed something else. Earth wasn't panicking. Citizens watched from a distance, some waving, some holding signs she couldn't read, but assumed were supportive. News drones hovered in the air, broadcasting live footage. Humanity wasn't afraid. They were curious, brave, hopeful, but the moment of peace didn't last long. A sudden alert sound came from a nearby human terminal. Admiral Carter checked his wrist device, and his face tightened. Lara sensed danger immediately. "What is it?" she asked. Carter looked up, his expression calm but serious. "The Voron ships," he said. "They've entered near space. They'll be here soon." The refugees gasped. Larai single quotes as heart dropped. "We should leave," she said quickly. "You've already risked too much for us. Evacuate your civilians. Hide your cities. We brought danger to your world." But Carter raised a hand. "No," he said firmly. "This enemy isn't your burden anymore." Larai stared at him. "What do you mean?" Carter turned toward the sky, where human warships were already moving into a tighter formation. "I mean," he said, "we will protect you, whatever it costs." The words hit her like a shockwave. Another human officer approached Carter urgently. "Admiral, Defense Command wants you in orbit immediately." "I'll go," Carter said. Then he looked at Larai and added, "Please rest. Your people are safe here." Safe. The word felt unreal. Larai watched as Carter boarded a small shuttle that shot into the sky. Flames bursting from the engines all around them. Sirens began to sound not in fear, but in preparation. Earth was getting ready. Humans were not running. Humans were not hiding. Humans were standing between the refugees and an unstoppable enemy. As the sun set over the ocean, Larry realized something powerful. They had not just come to a planet. They had come to a people worth believing in. And for the first time since her world died, she truly believed they might live long enough to rebuild. Night settled over the landing zone, but the sky above was anything except calm. Dozens of lights streaked upward from Earth's surface, human warships racing into orbit, engines burning bright like miniature suns. Sirens echoed from distant military bases. Waves crashed against the coast as if the planet itself felt the danger coming. "Commander," Laurie watched all of it from the balcony of a temporary shelter built for the refugees. The structure wasn't fancy, just metal walls and soft lights, but it was warm, safe, and still more comfortable than anything they had experienced in months. Children slept on soft beds. Families ate warm food. Medics moved gently among the injured. Earth had shared everything without hesitation, but Larai couldn't rest. Not while the Voron Armada was entering Earth space. She turned as footsteps approached behind her. It was Dr. Mara Lin, a human scientist assigned to examine the refugees. "You should rest," Dr. Lin said kindly. "Your body shows signs of exhaustion." "I can rest when my people are safe," Larai replied. Dr. Lin gave a small smile. "Your people are safe. Earth won't abandon you." Larai shook her head. "You don't understand the Voron. They destroy entire species. They erased 5 worlds before ours. They will not stop now." Dr. Lin leaned on the railing beside her. "Maybe, but humanity won't stop either." Larry studied her face. Humans were strange creatures. They were smaller than most alien species, physically weaker than many. And their technology, though impressive, should not have matched a galaxy-sized empire like the Voron. Yet there was something in their eyes. A stubbornness, a fire, a refusal to break. Dr. Lin looked up at the sky. "My brother is up there," she said softly. "He's a fighter pilot. He sends me messages when he can." Larai hesitated. "Aren't you afraid for him?" "Every moment," Dr. Lin said. "But he told me something last year that I'll never forget." She turned to Laurie. He said, "I don't fight because I hate the enemy. I fight because someone behind me needs to stay alive." Laurie's breath caught. That was exactly what her own soldiers used to say before Rathos fell. Dr. Lin placed a hand gently on Laurie's arm. "Let humanity carry the burden this time. You've carried it long enough." A sudden boom echoed from somewhere far above. The building shook slightly. Refugees gasped. Children woke from sleep. Laurie grabbed the railing. What was that? Dr. Lin's wrist communicator vibrated. Her eyes scanned the message and widened. The Voron fired a warning shot. She said quietly, They're testing our defense line. Lorraine's heart tightened. The Varan don't fire warnings. They fire destruction. Dr. Lin's communicator buzzed again. She paled. Admiral Carter is calling an emergency council meeting. They want you there. Lorraine didn't waste a second. Lead the way, she said. The council owns them inside a fortified underground command center. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Huge screens showed Earth's orbit. Human warships were arranged in tight layers. Frontline cruisers, missile frigates, stealth drones, and heavy carriers behind them dotted the far end of the room. Admiral Carter stood before a holographic table. His expression was focused, sharp, but not afraid. "Commander Lorraine," he said as she entered. "Thank you for coming. What's happening?" she asked. Carter tapped a control pad. A hologram of 8 massive Varan battleships appeared above the table. Their dark shapes pulsed with red energy. Even the projection looked terrifying. "They arrived faster than expected," Carter said. "We estimate full contact in 1 hour." Several human officers shifted nervously. Lara stepped closer. "Those are frontline destroyers. The Varan rarely send them alone. More will follow." "We expected that," Carter said calmly. Lorraine turned sharply. "You cannot fight them." "Their firepower." Carter raised a hand. "We have our own firepower." He gestured, and the hologram changed. Now Earth's fleet filled the air shining silver and blue. "Humanity has been preparing for threats like this," Carter said. "We have rail cannons, plasma torpedoes, orbital mines, and gravity disruptors." "But the Varan have never fought humans before," Carter finished, his eyes steady. "They don't know us." Lorraine studied the holographic ships. Humans might not have centuries of galactic war experience, but their technology looked clever, compact, efficient, built for defense, not conquest. A strategy officer turned to Lorraine. "We need your knowledge of Varan battle tactics. Weak points. Blind angles. Any advantage." Lorraine hesitated. "If you fight them, they will target you. They will burn your cities, your oceans, everything." Carter looked around the table at his officers, each one silent but resolute. "And if we do nothing," Carter said, "they will destroy your people while we watch." His voice grew softer. "Earth won't stand by while others suffer. We never have." Silence filled the room. Lorraine finally exhaled. "Then you will need to strike first." Carter nodded. "Where?" She pointed at the Varan's rear engine clusters. "There. Their hyperdrives are exposed during cooldown. A single precise attack could disable half their fleet." The officers quickly updated the strategy. Carter smiled faintly. "Good. Then that will be our opening move." Lara looked at him with a mix of fear and respect. "You are brave, Admiral Carter." "No," he said. "I am human." Not alone Anwy and Mori as Lara left the council room. She noticed something she hadn't seen since Rathos fell. Hope in her people's eyes. Refugees gathered near windows, watching human ships rise into space like silver arrows. Some whispered prayers, not for survival, but for the humans who were risking their own world to protect them. Lara stood among them. She felt their warmth, their courage, their gratitude. Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a shield, a promise, a home. She lifted her eyes to the night sky, where flashes of light already danced. The battle hadn't begun yet, but it would dawn, and for the first time in her life, Lara believed they would not face it alone. For 2 days, the skies over Earth were no longer calm. Patrol ships moved in silent lines above the atmosphere. Orbital stations glowed with activity. And far above everything, like a dark cloud slowly drifting closer, the Dravak Armada prepared their first attack. But humanity did not hide. They prepared. "Commander." Lara watched all of it from the observation deck of the newly built settlement. The humans had worked without rest. Engineers, soldiers, pilots, even civilians. The smell of steel and hot engines filled the air. Drones zipped back and forth, carrying supplies. Huge shield towers hummed, shaking the ground. It made no sense to her. These humans owed the people of Rathos nothing. They had no alliance, no shared history, no reason to risk their lives. Yet here, they were fighting for complete strangers. Lieutenant Ramos joined her at the viewing glass, wiping sweat from his face. "They're coming," he said quietly. Lara Lee nodded. "Our sensors show the same." Ramos took a breath. "We'll hold them off. You have my word. You're defending us as if we are your own people." Ramos turned to her with a tired smile. "On Earth, we don't let anyone face monsters alone." His voice was steady, but Lara could see something else in his eyes: fear. Not for himself, but for the thousands of refugees now living under human protection. For the city Earth had built for them. For the families sleeping only a few miles below. Humans fought with emotion. They fought with their hearts. And that made them dangerous, even to an enemy like the Dravok. Far above, the first shadow appeared. A massive Dravok warship slid into view, black and silent, blocking the sunlight. More ships followed, forming a wall of metal. Their engines burned like cold blue fire. In the Earth Command Center, alarms blared. Enemy fleet detected. All units, prepare for combat. Shields to full power. Larry stood beside Commander Hayes, who stared at the holographic display without blinking. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched behind his back. "They're testing us first," he said. "They want to see how much we can take." A moment later, the Dravok sent their first message. A deep, rumbling voice filled the room. "Earth, you shelter the Rathos species. They are ours to destroy. Release them, or be destroyed with them." Hayes narrowed his eyes. "We don't surrender people who come to us for help." The Dravok replied with a laugh, cold and metallic. "Then we will burn your skies." The transmission ended, and the battle began. The first attack was brutal. Dravok cruisers fired volleys of plasma, bright enough to turn the sky white. The Earth shield towers activated, sending a shimmering blue barrier across the atmosphere. The ground shook like thunder, hitting the planet itself. Laurie grabbed the railing to keep her balance. Explosions flashed in the clouds above, shields holding at 73%. An officer shouted that the Dravok fired again. The barrier cracked, glowed, and strained under the pressure. Ramos appeared on the display, strapped into his fighter cockpit. "Commander, we're going out." Larai's heart tightened. "You don't have the numbers to face them." "We don't need numbers," Ramos said with a grin. "We have human pilots." His squadron launched, engines roaring like beasts. They flew directly into the storm of enemy fire, weaving through blazing plasma bolts. Returning shots with precision, Laurie watched in disbelief. Human fighters moved with wild creativity, nothing like the rigid formations of Rathos pilots. They looped, twisted, dropped backward, and accelerated at insane angles. It was like watching a dance made of fire. But even with their skill, the Dravok fleet was overwhelming. Squadron 6 is hit. We're losing altitude. Shield grid failing on the west side. Commander Hayes slammed his fist on the console. "Divert power. Keep that shield up." The room spun with noise. Officers rushed from station to station. Screens flickered with warnings. The Dravok ships pushed harder, closer, like wolves circling a wounded animal. Rathos citizens gathered outside the settlement, staring in fear at the burning sky. Children clung to parents. Elders prayed softly. Larai felt helpless. She should be fighting up there. Her people should be fighting. But their ships were broken, their weapons shattered, their fleet gone. All they had left